G'day guys, how you going? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean and today we're doing a PC transplant, I guess, if you want to call it that. Just to give you a bit of context, my own personal PC, which is amazing and it looks amazing and it's full of LIAN Li parts, and honestly, aesthetically, it just looks incredible. It's probably one of the nicest PCs that I've ever put together myself. The main issue that I have with it though, that I haven't been able to get over, is the LIAN Li Galahad pump that is on the AIO. It is just a really noisy pump, and even when the fans aren't doing much and the computer is basically just sitting there idle, you know, if I'm sitting next to a computer, if I'm sitting next to the computer, you know, during work, when I'm working from home, for example, and it's turned on, the pump noise is just so frustrating, and it's something that I really wasn't expecting, considering the price of the Galahad pump. You know, it's really up there in the premium AIO sort of category. So I reached out to BEQUIET to see if they would possibly send over some of their equipment to replace some of those parts to try and get the noise levels down, because that is actually really important to me as my, I don't know, my, what do you want to call it, like how much I'll tolerate in terms of noise level from a computer. I'm pretty particular. Maybe for some of you it wouldn't bother you, but for me the pump noise is really quite annoying. So they sent over their BEQUIET base 802 case, the silent base 802 in white. We've got a pure loop 240mm AIO, and we've also got a BEQUIET, what is it, the Pure Power 11 FM 850 watt. So we're going to take everything out of my own PC, put it into the BEQUIET case. We're going to run some thermal tests and some, you know, noise tests as well, and we're going to see how it all performs and how it looks compared to my LIAN Li build. So what I might do now is actually show you the build just quickly so you can get an idea in case you're new to the channel and you haven't seen it. And I'll also show you the noise readings and the thermal readings that we're currently getting from this PC as well. So let me pick up the camera here and I'll just move it around a little bit, and I'll try and do this without too much camera wobble. But this is my own personal computer. Like I said, I think it looks absolutely incredible. We've got LIAN Li fans pretty much all the way through, SL120s. At the moment, they're all spinning at 50% fan speed. The pump is at 100%. We've got a 5900X CPU, a RTX 2070 Super, 32 gigs of RAM, and you know what? It's pretty much the best computer that I could, you know, put together at the time, and I think it just looks really, you know, nice, and it's actually performs really well in terms of, like, you know, how many frames I get and reliability. It's been rock solid. Now, just down here as well, we have a little, I guess, decibel digital sound level meter. It's not the most super accurate thing in the world, but it's going to do the job, and it's going to give you a bit of an idea of the noise level. So this is currently positioned about, you know, 30 centimeters away from the PC with the glass side panel on, and I'll just shut up for a few seconds so you can get an idea of the sound that we're getting from this computer. Okay, so we're getting around about 35, 36 decibels at any given moment. If I was to turn off the computer altogether, you know, this can only read anything above 30 decibels. And so when the computer is off, this actual sound meter will say low, because it basically can't pick up any noise in the room. So the sound of the computer is definitely more than, I guess, the noise floor of the actual bedroom or the study that we're in right now. Now, if we jump over to thermals for a second, I've actually been running this stress test for a little while now, just to give you an idea of the temperatures. But this is Firmark, which is a GPU stress test. And then to the right of that, just down here, we've got AIO, which are running a CPU stress test. And then on the very far right, I'm going to show you the temperatures. So I'll just move the camera a little bit closer here. I'll just move it down a little bit. And so as you can see at the moment on the package of the CPU, at 50% fan speed, 100% speed on the pump, we're hitting the 90-degree mark when we're running these tests. It will sometimes drop down a little bit because it's trying to, you know, protect itself from overheating, and so the clock speeds, you know, will drop down a little bit, but definitely not the performance from this cooler and this combination with this many fans that I was actually expecting. And if we look at the graphic card, which probably won't be overheating or hitting any sort of thermal limits. I'll just move these out of the way for a second, and I'll point the camera down. You can see on the GPU, we're getting about 71.7. So definitely hitting 90 degrees on the CPU, about 71, 72 degrees on the CPU, and we're going to basically just try and replicate the same fan speed in the BEQUIET case and try and beat those numbers. So like I said, this is the Pure Loop 240. It's basically just got some white LEDs around the pump. There's no RGB or anything like that. It comes with two, 120mm, I think they're called the Pure Loop, not Pure Loop, sorry, Silent Wing fans pre-installed. And then we've got the power supply, the 850 watt Pure Power 11 FM, 80 plus gold as well with a 5-year warranty. And then for the case, we've got the Silent Base 802, and this is in white, which has got a really nice mesh front panel. You can invert the motherboard, you can put a GPU on the side if you want to. So this is the 3 parts that they've sent over. So now let's basically get into pulling this apart, getting the build started, and I'll come back to you guys once it's all done. Alright, so it's been a few hours. As always, doing a bit of a transplant is never as simple or as quick and easy as what you hope it to be, because you're trying to learn a whole new case that you've never worked with, or I've never worked with before. But that being said, the PC is done. We've got everything turned on. We've been running some tests for a while now, and I'll show you guys the end result. So let me just flip the camera around, and I'll spin this around here so you can see it a bit better. But this is the BEQUIET, what's it called again? The Silent Base 802. And I mean, there's a lot of reflections here because of the glass, but I think it's a real nice looking PC. I really like the powder coated, white that they've got going on here. There's not a lot of RGB, compared to all those SL120 fans that we had in the LIAN Li build, but I'm actually really digging it. We've got the mesh panel on here as well, instead of the acoustic panel, which they include in the box. And then on the front of the PC, and I will do some more B-roll, but we've also got the mesh panel on the front as well. So we're sucking in cool air from the two 120mm fans on the front, so you can see that there's one fan and then another. We've got the BEQUIET 240mm AIO on the CPU, on the 5900X. We've got another BEQUIET fan, which is here on the back, which is an exhaust. And then obviously the radiator is mounted in the top here, and that's exhausting all the hot air through the top. But overall, I think this looks like a really clean and tidy build. Definitely a bit bigger of a case compared to the LIAN Li, but also it's a bit more narrow, so there's a bit more space here. So overall though, it looks really nice. Now in terms of temperatures, if we bring it over and we have a look at the screen here for a second, and I'll just sit the camera down and we'll get this angled and positioned so you guys can see everything a little bit better. But in terms of CPU temps, where are we? Just here. Let me just move it a little bit closer, maybe go up a little bit too. 91, 92 degrees on the AIO, and we're running this obviously at 50% fan speeds as well. So we've gone from a 360mm rad with the LIAN Li down to a 240mm. But that being said, the pump is so much quieter. The case fans are a lot quieter as well compared to those SL120s. But if we look at the GPU temps, I wasn't really expecting the CPU temps to improve. It's a very, hardcore test. But the GPU temps have dropped from like 71, 72 down to like 68, which is a pretty big difference considering it's the exact same hardware with the fans spinning at basically the same speed. We've shaved off, 4 degrees, but the sound and the acoustics is just so much better. So in terms of like, was this whole process a success? 100%. The tests that I'm running at the moment, these are not real world scenarios. Like I'm never going to put a load on the CPU and GPU like the 2 tests that I'm running at the moment. Like these are very hardcore synthetic tests. The main objective was to get the computer to be a lot quieter, and as you'll hear in a second, the acoustic noise from the pumps specifically is just insane. I don't think it's really hard to comprehend. Sorry, it's fully hard to understand how much of a difference it's made, because you're watching this through video and you don't really understand everything because you're not here with me in the moment. But the pump is just so quiet, you can barely hear it. Like when I turned on the PC for the first time, I was just like, oh my god, this is such a quiet computer now, compared to what I've been dealing with before. So let me get a mic pointed so you can see the decibels, the readings that we're going to be getting. But I'm pretty confident we're going to be under the noise floor of the actual room. So we had to beat, I think it was 35, 36 decibels, and I definitely think we're going to be doing that. Okay, so it's been a few weeks since I have switched everything over from the LIAN Li setup to the BEQUIET setup, and I really just wanted to sort of take a bit more time to share with you guys what my experience has been like and what it's been like using this BEQUIET case and some things that I really love about it. So first things first, the fact that they give you a mesh panel for the top and for the front on this case when you buy it is a really nice touch. So that way you can sort of choose between the premium acoustic, sound dampened version, or you can get that high airflow option. I have actually played around with both, and I've actually stuck with the sound dampened version because I actually didn't really notice that my thermals were that much worse with the solid front panel and kind of solid top panel as well compared to the mesh. So that's what I've been doing, and it has been a little bit quieter, which is definitely a big plus for me. But more importantly, the BEQUIET, the AIO, the fact that they've actually gone ahead and removed, I guess, the pump from the block and isolated it in a different area and put some sound dampening and done some magic there is just absolutely incredible. And I don't know why more companies sort of don't follow this trend. Maybe it's too difficult. Maybe they've got it patented and protected. But either way, this AIO, even though it's a 240 on this 5900X, is absolutely awesome. It is so quiet. I haven't had to muck around with the fan speeds too much. I haven't had to muck around with the pump speeds. I can basically just let it sit at 100% and it is very, 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 very quiet. Also, I didn't really talk about it in the beginning, but they also include some fluid, and this AIO, you can actually service it yourself. So in a few years, they recommend, you drain it and you refill it with more fluid, which they actually include in the box. And when you consider the price point of this AIO, I think, again, this is just another really smart move, and it's great for you, the customer, if you're actually thinking about getting this, knowing that in a few years, if you do have to refill it to revitalize it a little bit, they've already sort of thought about that and got you covered. So that's all I have to really say about this case and the cooler. The power supply has been rock solid. It doesn't have a zero fan mode, but in all honesty, even under max load, I haven't heard the fan at all from the power supply. I think I would have to really put my ear up to it to actually notice it, but overall this has been an exceptional transition from the LIAN Li to the BEQUIET, and I think I'll be sticking with this for a few more weeks before we do our next transplant. So if you guys want to see that transplant, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can always join and become a member. We've now got a merch situation happening, so there's a link down to the merch store, as well as all my other social media links and my Discord server, all down in the video description. So thanks again to everyone at BEQUIET who made this project possible. I really do appreciate it. It has made my life, working from home that much more enjoyable. And until the next video, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.